Hello, Predrag. It's really nice to see you here, online, obviously, but today our future discussion. And I am so happy that you agreed to have this discussion together, because it's our not as a tradition, but we are trying to invite some interesting people, interesting scientists, researchers from all over the world, and to have some discussion on different issues, mainly obviously in education or related to education. And it's really nice today to see you as a scientist, a scholar from Croatia, from Balkan region, Baltic region and Balkan region to be. And I am going shortly to introduce you, at least what I know. Today we have Associate Professor Predrag from Zagreb University, Faculty of Electrical Engineering and Computing, if I understood well, and your current scientific interest, as I found this information also online, connected in fields of ICT and ICT including education, ICT in education, user and man-machine interfaces, and ICT security, and many other areas. And in addition, it was written that you are as a consultant and designer, educator, and lecturer in the field of information systems and education. And in addition, I found some very good and positive opinions possible from your students online. It was on your page, if I remember well, on your personal website, and some positive that yes, that you are really brilliant lecturer and good lecturer, and I hope that our discussion also will be somehow interesting, not only for us, but also for our channel viewers and possible for other colleagues who possible will watch this video. Predrag, I kindly ask you to shortly possibly add something from your side about you, a short introduction, because I know only a little about you, but please shortly about yourself.
Well, the easiest way to explain is that I'm very fascinated from when I was a kid with what technology can do for people. So I'm in love with technology, but not, the one who wants to have new gadgets, but rather what technology can do for people, all sorts of people. And I'm an electronics engineer, and I try to use electronics and computers and software and networks to help people to make life better, easier, more secure in various different ways. And I have very broad interests. I'm a very curious person. And I was guiding my career in such a way that I was actually building systems, designing and building systems for all sorts of activities, from medicine to civil engineering, libraries to finance, government management to education, all sorts of things. It makes me happy. I like to learn about other professions, other things people do, their activities, and try to figure out how to use technology to help them. So that's why I'm so broad in what I do. And then being a technologist and technician, I was not happy how the systems that I've built and other people have built, and the devices that we buy and internet and other things that are at our disposal, how they are used. And I have started to study and learn, why do we people have problems in implementing things, and learn that it has to do with project management, change management, meetings, conflicts among people, presentation skills. So I started learning these things, applying that, teaching my clients, my partners, my colleagues. And so I developed this other professional pillar, which is, they used to call it soft skills, now they call them professional skills, that help us actually to leverage the technology. So this is why I'm so broad in what I do. And the reason is that I'm a very curious person. I like to learn, and I'm a learning junkie.
I think I think that curiosity, it's let's say like a backbone for every researcher.
Yes, yes. If you're not curious, I don't know how can you be called researcher. I'm simply a learning junkie. I like to learn about everything, and I have this passion. When I learn something, when I say, "Aha! Now I understand it," then I have strong desire to tell about this to everybody else and try to find a simpler way to explain it so that other people need less effort than I needed to learn something. So learning and then teaching others, that's my passion.
Yes, but it's not easy. It's not easy, let's say, activity. You need some efforts.
Yeah, it's not, but it's fun. I enjoy it.
Okay.
Some other people go fishing, other people do sports or read, or I don't know what they do, eat, make barbecues. I use also free time to learn and do various things. It makes me happy.
Okay, it's really. I do agree. Obviously, I do agree, and I think for us as researchers and mainly as lecturers, we need to learn continuous learning somehow every time, or to refresh at least our knowledge, our skills, etc. And by the way, it would be also interesting, possible, some lines, some words about your university or about the department, because it's also...
University of Zagreb was founded in 1669. It's the oldest university in Croatia. Today we have like 100,000 students, and the way we are organized, the university is a very loose confederation of very strong individual schools. I'm at a school or faculty of electrical engineering computing, which is the electrical engineering became a university course somewhere in 1940 or something, so 80 years ago. And today we have like almost 4,000 students, 700 employees. We enroll 650 students every year in both studies, electrical engineering and in computer science and computer engineering. I teach in all these directions, teach several courses. Our faculty is considered to be the best organized faculty in Croatia, but also what we've learned from our students that go to Erasmus in prestige universities across Europe, that we are probably one of the best organized schools in Europe. Everything is automized, everything's well prepared in advance, and we put a lot of effort to make the administrative part of work for our students and teachers very easy, very effortless, and very little overhead. We have doctoral studies as well, and increasingly many foreign students. Now we have also started with English courses. Our undergraduate studies can be taken in English. So foreign students can enroll in all our courses, and in a year or two.
Do you mean just separate courses, or for example, a whole study program in English?
The whole study program is available in English for undergraduate, and next year will be also for graduate studies. The whole study program is available in English.
Okay, in so-called modern world or contemporary world,
we are doing our best.
Yeah, somehow obligatory. And by the way, how many universities do you have in Croatia?
We have 4 big universities: Zagreb, Rijeka, Split, and Osijek. And then we have some new universities which are smaller in Pula, Dubrovnik, Zadar, University North in northern part of Croatia. And now we also have some first private universities. One was Catholic University. Then we have some technical universities that are now emerging, but they're much smaller. Just to give you the comparison, in Faculty of Electrical Engineering we have like 12 or 13 departments, but I'm associated with the Department for Electronic Systems and Information Processing. This department alone has, currently we have a little bit dropped to 90, but we had 100 employees, and none of these new universities has 100 employees. So just to give you the size, we are giants, we are mammoths, and there are new ones that just are emerging and blooming.
And Okay, but why not you have only one university in Croatia? Croatia, it's not
because every village wants to have a university.
Possible. I mentioned during conference in Maribor that Lithuania some years ago started a new reform, so-called reform. It's not let's say in direct meaning as a reform, but the outcome was that we reduced somehow number of universities. Idea was to reduce number of universities, to have bigger universities, not let's say many small universities. But I'm not sure about let's say success.
What is the population of your country?
Oh, I don't know exactly, but let's say around 3 million.
3?
Yeah, around.
Yeah, we are somewhere around 4, so similar size. Yes.
Yeah, and but possibly you know that in Lithuania we have so-called binary tertiary education system. It means that higher education consists of 2 types of institutions: universities and colleges. Colleges means non-university studies. Higher education with non-university study programs. Yeah, but we have quite a lot, including private colleges and also state colleges. But anyway, we will see.
We also have something similar. We also have this parallel system, which is non-university degree. Yes.
And as we agreed, possible our discussion consists from 3 main parts. And initially, I want to focus on some panoramic and general issues. And for example, it would be nice to know shortly about education system in Croatia today. I mean, can you briefly say some what is state of the art today for education system in Croatia?
We have 8 years compulsory primary education, and then for 3 to 4 years non-compulsory secondary education. Then we have universities which have 2+3, 4+1, or 5 years education. There were many attempts to reform, transform, improve primary, secondary education with various level of success. But from my point of view, the most important thing is to transform, to change the way we teach, the methods of teaching, and very little has been done in this area. And I don't.
I know, Predrag, because it was your main topic during recent conference in Maribor in Slovenia at the end of September, and I probably will discuss about this in more details because it's really interesting. But I read online also, for example, World Bank supports Croatia in transforming its primary education, mainly focus on primary education level and creating better learning opportunities. And if I understood well, the main idea was to have so-called whole day school, or prolonged day, possible to say. And it's really interesting because we have such experience starting possible from 2018. It's at national level, some recommendations are prepared, and some municipalities are trying to implement this at primary level. Can you briefly describe this?
Yeah, the idea is that today, because of capacities, etc., schools work in 2 shifts. So kids go into the school in the morning, and the next week in the afternoon, then again. Now we are trying to build enough capacities that they go into school only in the morning. But then the afternoon would be used for some other non-curricular activities, broaden things, etc. This is a good idea, and it's being in operation in some schools. But a lot needs to be done with teachers and to train them for all these things. And my opinion is that we need to give teachers the experience of learning in a new way before they can teach in a new way. And I don't think we do sufficiently to do that. But That's only my opinion.
Yeah, obviously, but also in Lithuania it was accepted, as I said, in 2018. It was ordered from our ministers like a recommendation, and it's different municipalities trying to implement, trying to accept, and this is including also not only just traditional, let's say, teaching and learning, but for example, focused on so-called non-formal activities, non-formal educational activities, pedagogical, psychological support, etc. And this is somehow in line with, let's say, to help fathers, mothers, for example, who are working all day, and also, let's say, smaller kids, children are in school with some in some, let's say, secure environment, etc., with a lot of things. Possibly this is really a good idea, but I remember because Lithuania was under Soviet occupation and under Soviet control for many years, and when I was a child, primary school learner, it was this tradition to have so-called prolonged school day, but it had negative meaning, or negative shadow. It means that you are like a loser, bad student, etc., and you need something additional, and it was not, let's say, it was not respected at all. Let's say it was something negative. You are in prolonged school day. And having in mind this, let's say, for my generation, let's say, somehow opinion is a little bit, let's say, not negative, but let's say at some distance.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
And obviously, in every country, and during our interviews, we're trying to also to discuss about possible challenges, because despite that education system, for example, can be quite good, quite flexible, etc., but anyway, every country feels some challenges. For example, in line with this so-called prolonged or whole-day school, if we would compare some countries in Asia, very well, obviously too, for example, Taiwan or South Korea, etc., also kids staying in school whole day, let's say, approximately up to midnight. When I visited Taiwan many times, I observed this, and then children staying up to 10 p.m. in school, and they are learning continuously. This is also creates some challenges. Can you shortly describe possible some key challenges you see today in Croatia?
Describe what challenges?
Challenges, yeah. Education system. What challenges possible?
The greatest obstacle we have is something we are carrying from socialist system that we had since 45 to 90. So for 45 years, which is, I don't know what would be the proper English term, probably not a very good one, is equality. It means that all people have the same rights, regardless how capable they are and how much are they putting effort. So basically, we don't have systems that will somehow raise up teachers that do good, which became better, which are better than the average. And we don't have the system that will put down those who don't perform well and didn't put enough effort in their work. So everybody gets the same workload, everybody gets the same pay, everybody gets the same resources, regardless of the result of their work. And this is in our minds. Even if we try to do something by regulation, again, we are not used to tell to our colleague, hey, you're not doing well, or to say, hey, you are doing great. Will you show me how you do that? Somehow we don't have this in our culture and habit, and we feel intimidated when we have to value the work of our colleagues and talk about the work of our colleagues. And if you don't make public, clear, difference between good practice and not so good practice, there will be no improvement. So what happens in practice is that people who try to do something new, differently, putting some effort, they are actually feeling uncomfortable because the environment doesn't welcome this. Their colleagues won't say, oh, Vincentas, you did something. Oh, that's great. Show us. And you say, well, I made a mistake. Oh, let us learn from your mistake. No, we don't have this climate. And this is maybe the single biggest obstacle and the challenge to overcome. And this can only be done by leadership. Leadership has to show that those who do more and better are good people, welcome people, people that need to be observed and followed by everybody, including the leadership. And I haven't seen that in the past 30 years, since 90s. I haven't seen such leadership in our country, and this is the biggest problem.
Oh yeah, it's possible different challenges, and I totally agree with you that it's not so easy because somehow so-called innovators are not possible not as innovators, but we are like a minority to implement something new, something not common for majority, etc. And for example, just in relation to the last idea that, for example, also in Lithuania, not only in Lithuania, this for many years already. For many years, it's I know quite well at university level. For example, when we're discussing about study programs, about new study programs in particular. Quite often we speak with so-called holy word, employees' needs, stakeholders' needs, employees' needs, what students' needs, or what employees' needs from our students. And in relation to that, my question is, does Croatian education system meet the needs of employees today?
I'm not quite sure I understand the question. Does the system need the needs?
Does the Croatian, your education system, meet the needs of employees? You know, that employees or labor market.
Your question is, do we meet their needs?
Yeah, do education system meet? Because, for example, quite often in university we're discussing that, okay, we are preparing students. Is it in line with labor market needs or employers' needs? What do they need from our students? Or just we are working in another direction? This is really a holy word.
General public opinion is that we don't do that. General public opinion is that the graduates that come out into the labor market are not best prepared and not best adjusted to what the labor market needs. This is the general opinion. Again, my personal view is that what we don't do, we don't create learners. When you finally graduate, you are happy that you won't be required to learn anytime anymore. Finally, I'm finished with learning, which today is completely wrong. Every company that employs you today, every organization actually needs that you continue learning, that you learn new stuff as the world changes. And we don't create learners, and we don't create systems that enable them to learn. So probably from my point of view, this is the largest problem. Not do we educate too many lawyers, too many economists? Do we train them in the old-fashioned stuff or new stuff? I think the biggest problem is that we don't create avid, motivated, capable, competent learners.
Because for example, just based on my experience, for example, discussing with some young people just after secondary school, etc., quite many of them just rejecting university studies, saying that why do I need to study at university, let's say 4 or 5 years, and then I can go directly to, let's say, labor market and to learn directly at my work position, etc., etc. And for example, mainly with ICT, it's quite common.
Yes, for ICT, higher education, it is a huge problem that you have those industrial certificates, Microsoft, Cisco, Oracle, whatever. And companies do require these certificates, and kids with full reason, they say, why should I spend so many years studying when actually I need Microsoft certificate and I can be a successful international programmer? And that's if university doesn't have a very clear answer that every high school graduate can relate to, then we will lose students. We won't have students in a few years.
Yeah, if let's say in more details, for example, my personal example, because my son currently is approximately 25 years old, and he rejected study at university and said, why? I don't need it, because just being at secondary school level, he started to learn by himself. Obviously initially with some support, etc., etc. But after that, he started to learn by himself. And currently he works at international company in web design area, etc., without any problems. I don't know about, let's say, future, but this is quite typical situation today.
Yeah, the world is changing, the labor market is changing, the industry is changing, and the universities are not quick to follow the changes. Not in a sense, there's always a huge discussion. Is university's role to supply what industry needs, or is university's role to show the path, to shed the light to the future, to give the education that actually will be needed later, etc., etc.? I think that we are not doing a good job in either of these directions. Neither we are giving labor market what they want, nor we are actually creating learners, professionals for the future who will be able to guide the rest of the things. And I'm not quite sure how this can be solved, because the construction of a university as it is today is very inert. We are very inert.
Yes. Not only university, education system in general.
Yes.
Yes. I think now it's the good time for our next question or next issue related to education system transformation, because somehow we already started. And possible my rhetoric idea, why do we need universities? Possible, let's close them. Why do we need universities? It would be also a transformation in education.
Well, my view is that not very many years from now, most people will learn from internet, and they will get certificates on internet. And yes, they will not need universities. You need university in order to be able to work with a master on a project without danger of failing, in a sense, wasting money, endangering people or existing systems. So at university, you should have a master, a professional who is very good at some profession, and the ability to work with this person in a group on challenging projects. Projects that you cannot do in industry because they would be too risky, too expensive, too complex, to anything. So, and then you also need university to be able to have a lengthy discussion with those professionals, and not only those at the university, but the others that the university will attract, about broader aspects of the profession, of the trade you're learning. This is what you need university for. Not to teach you how to invert the matrix or how to spell something or how to analyze a chemical compound. These are things that you can learn from the internet. You need also universities for special spaces they have, special laboratories they have. And you need a university as a place where you will be discussing things with your fellow college students. So these are three things that you need from university, but that means also that university has to transform to provide this, instead of giving lectures, boring lectures about something that you can learn more efficiently over the internet.
But it's not only, for example, connected with technical professions or in this area, but for example in education or pure education area, like for example at our university we're preparing pre-primary and primary school teachers, etc. And quite often, let's say, lecturers have no idea about current teaching, learning, education practice, what is going on in schools at all levels, etc. And we are working. Sometimes it's not a joke, but it's like anecdotal situation. We are teaching based on some books. We have read some books and transforming something to our students, translating something without being involved directly in teaching teaching practice, for example, at appropriate level. And this is, for example, in some countries, education faculties or colleges, for example, in Denmark, as an example, or some other countries, doesn't matter. We have such as clinics, educational clinics, where students can practice approximately every day and be involved in this school environment directly. And but as based on my observation, quite often we are working, let's say, separately, university studies and schools working in another path, in another channel, like two different channels and not interconnected. And okay, let's continue, because this is really interesting. As I mentioned, we discussed, your presentation was really nice during international conference Philosophy of Mind and Cognitive Modeling in Maribor at the end of September, as I mentioned before. And your topic was directly connected with this topic, transforming education systems. But why? Why, what, and how? Three main questions, quite important.
Well, why, for instance, university will no longer have students? That's why. You won't have anybody to work for. That's why. Primary schools, okay, you have to go to primary school, but schools will not suffer, whatever they do, but the society will, because their citizens will not be able to be efficient in new world. This is why we need to change something. What? As I said in my lectures for the past 20 years, we need to change the methods of teaching, not the content. Content will come later. The methods, how we explain things. You know, teaching as we know it today has been designed in the time when there were no literate people. The only literate people were priests. So there you would come to church and they would read you a book because you couldn't read by yourself.
Yeah.
And even when I started teaching at my faculty 30 years ago, if I was teaching about microprocessors, there were no books. We were a poor country, we didn't have books, we didn't have textbooks. When I started teaching about internet, there were no textbooks and there was no internet. So my students could get information only from me, from the teacher. So
Predrag, sorry, I'm interrupting you. It's really, I do understand in full, because this is the same. For example, I started my university studies in 1985, and as chemistry and biology study program, and we had approximately nothing in Lithuanian language, only a few books, and also not only Lithuanian language, for example, because I am not speaking about English language textbooks, but we mainly translated from Russian, or we used Russian, different books written in Russian language, because we knew Russian language quite well. We learned at school, it was obligatory. And I remember it's exactly as you said, lecturers just saying something and you just making conspectus.
Yeah, so look, 30 years ago, when I started teaching, my role was to give students information, which I had, they didn't. Today, I can't give them information that is already not available on internet. And if they go tonight at the internet and look at topic that I will be teaching tomorrow, they will know more than I do if I don't go. So they have all information and current information. So my role is not to give information. And the question is, what is my role? And nobody's asking this really. Yes, rhetorically, but nobody's actually trying to act on it, to change. That's what I'm trying to do for the past 30 years. I'm trying to seek my new role and to experiment with this role. So what I do when I come to teach about internet protocol, or how to build Internet of Things device, or how to do forensic analysis of a computer, what I do, before I start thinking how I will teach this topic, I ask myself, what mistake will my students make if I don't teach them that? I call it mistake-based learning. So when I realize what mistake they will make, then I start thinking, okay, how can I check if they are going to make this mistake? How can I create an exam, the learning outcome? And then when I come in a lecture, then I say, okay, here's a problem. And I pose them a problem, problem-based learning. And I invite them to try to solve it. And then I'm guiding them, asking questions, guiding them through the problem-solving process. I try as much as possible that they come up with a solution instead of me telling them the solution, because they are capable of coming up with a solution. And then we discuss what is good, what is bad, advantages, disadvantages, and then we broaden the discussion. So I combine mistakes-based learning, problem-based learning, Socratic teaching, all these techniques, so that they come to most important conclusion, that they are active in this process. And yes, then you need to teach them, for instance, if I teach them something about Ethernet protocol, then I can tell them, okay, look at Bluetooth. When they come up with their solutions, then I say, okay, it's very similar in Bluetooth, the difference is this and that. In Wi-Fi, the difference is this and that. In Zigbee, so I can shorten the time by explaining them their analogies and the similarities and comparisons with other systems, so they don't have to spend so much time in it. But we spend more time in there where the concept needs to be accomplished, comprehended, and I try to make them come to this as much by themselves as possible, because this is the way to learn better. And yes, it's with moderate success. Sometimes you succeed, sometimes you don't. Sometimes they react better, sometimes they're worse. The group dynamic, the climate, the diseases, viruses in the air, everything is influencing how efficient they will learn or not. But that's the way to try to do it. And if we don't try to implement all these new techniques, we will have problems. So this is how I believe that needs to be implemented.
Yeah, and for example, personally, I'm involved in as an expert in our National Agency for Innovations and Technology, and from time to time I'm working with different proposals, different projects, and I see that, for example, obviously in education area, and people are trying to create, to give some ideas, some so-called innovations, etc. Obviously, innovations, employing innovations in technology to improve education in general, or teaching and learning, as we understand, offers so huge opportunities to transform education at all levels. And do you agree with this statement, that innovations in technology?
Yeah. As I said at the beginning, I'm very much in love with what technology can do for people. In education, definitely. I started building Internet for Croatia in 1991, and there were several reasons I decided to do that. And one of them was because I immediately understood the huge potential of Internet and Internet-related technologies, the huge impact it will have on education. But we have to understand that all these things are just tools, like chalk and chalkboard, blackboard, like paper and pencil. These are all tools. And we shouldn't fall into a trap because something is modern, let's use it. For instance, when I teach how to use technologies in education, I have a lecture on media forms and media channels. Video is today very important, very modern, very popular. But I try to teach people or bring them that they learn by themselves, conclude by themselves. When is video appropriate? For some things, it is more appropriate to use several photographs, successful photographs. For instance, if you are disassembling something or cooking something or doing some process, so explaining a process, sometimes it's better to use multiple photographs taken sequentially, better than video. Sometimes it's better to give them textual instructions. Sometimes it's better to use audio and sometimes text. So you shouldn't be using video because it's popular and I can do it, but because it is the right method, technology, channel, form for this, what I want to do.
Predrag, right, I do agree, you are right. However, quite often we are just following, not I'm saying we in general.
Yeah.
We are following like a trend because
Yes.
it's modern, it's popular, and how it's possible, for example, to teacher to perform lessons without computer, without so-called ICT. But what is benefit in a particular situation or in particular, let's say, teaching learning scenario, etc. This is
exactly. Why do you want to use a tool? Why? What do you want to accomplish? What will happen if you don't use it?
Sure.
This is the question that every teacher should be asking him or herself.
Yes, and having in mind, I remember, not in details, but we discussed with some colleagues some possible 2 years ago that on design of some possible studies, and the idea was that let's perform like an audit because we have a lot of different so-called ICT in general. I'm saying in general ICT tools, different devices, different instruments. They are overloaded everywhere, and is it how to use effectively? First of all, is it really needed to use in different situations, etc. But not just to create new ones, because, for example, so the latest, let's say, example related with this COVID pandemic, and different online platforms for online teaching learning. We are creating new platforms. For example, currently possible, I use maybe 5 or 6 of them, etc. It's
yes, I agree.
I don't know what it's reasonable, possible not.
Look, sometimes the best thing is to stand in front of people and tell them a story. Sometimes it's best to sit with them in a circle and tell them a story. Sometimes it's good to discuss with them. Sometimes it is best to take them out to a factory, to a hospital, to a school, to the street, to the forest, and face a problem. So it depends what you want to teach and where they are with their pre-knowledge. Sometimes you need video. Sometimes we send them video. Why don't you watch the video and tell me what you think?
Predrag, but okay, I do agree. But it's, let's say it's easy to know, but how to decide? How to choose appropriately?
Well, certainly we can create a set of rules or advices or guidelines. But at the end, it will always come to the teacher. The teacher is the one who should know the audience, should know what learning outcomes are expected, and then choose a method. And then when you apply a method and you see it doesn't work, sometimes it doesn't work, you need to be able to switch quickly to plan B, plan C, plan D. That's the role of a teacher. This is why you need a human being.
As today politicians usually saying, economic crisis somehow approaching and cold winter possible in Europe. And they're saying we need plan A, plan B, plan C, or different scenarios. But nobody exactly knows what does these scenarios mean.
You know, if you have the privilege to teach the same group of people for some time, you will relatively quickly learn how they function as a group, and you will be able to, if you're an experienced teacher, quickly adjust to them, and you won't be doing many mistakes. You won't need plans C, D, E. You will need plan A and plan B. Plan B if there is no electricity or if there is raining in the room. But the whole thing is that, you know, too many teachers would like to have recipes and would like to do the same thing every day after day. Well, this is not teaching. It's just repeating something.
Just I remember at Predrag, very interesting, shortly. When I was a university student, if I remember well, doesn't matter, it was possible 1986 or 1987 possible. We had first internship in school as a students. I remember chemistry lesson. We went to one school in Vilnius, in our capital city, secondary school, and the chemistry teacher showed for us, for students, possible, I don't know, 5 different like very large amount of papers. And she said, where are in this my plans, my scenarios are written, but this is for inspection. And she put again into table, I am teaching differently, but this is for somebody else.
Yeah, this also happens in Croatia, that teachers, especially in primary, secondary schools, are required to create lesson plans. When the inspection comes, they want to check it and they insist on forms, etc. But teachers actually do something different in the class. Educational authorities should change this. It is really senseless that you do something to fulfill formal requests, which sometimes is not the best one, and that you don't apply. And these times have passed. This is the reliquia from old time, and in many countries from socialist planned economy. This needs to be changed. It's a slow process, it doesn't happen, but you are completely right. This is the wrong thing.
Yeah, it's you can plan for somebody, and direct teaching or real teaching, real school day and school practice is something.
Many years, like almost 20 years ago, there was a colleague of mine. She's electrical engineer, but she was teaching at a secondary school, and she was teaching in a technical secondary school, which was almost elite in her region where she was living. And then she moved to another city, and she got a teaching position in a school where basically kids that cannot enroll anywhere else, they come to this technical school. So their knowledge and capacity and competence is very low. And she was supposed to teach them information technology. And the national plan for information technology at that time was to teach them Java programming language, which is difficult for students and not for these kids who really have low competencies. And then she asked me, like, what should I do? Because I'm accomplishing nothing. And I said, well, I have bought for my kids Lego robot. Why don't you take this robot and teach them how to program the robot? And there is also a tool called Game Maker, free program to create video games. Why don't you teach them to create simple video games? So she started doing it, and she had some moderate success, in a sense that students were now motivated, but basically learning so that they were she would make example and they would make little changes in those examples, because this was their capacity. And then one day she said, oh, the inspection will come to my school. How shall I explain to the inspector that I'm not following the plan? And I said, look, if I were in your shoes, and the inspector is complaining of what I'm doing, I would say, well, why don't you please show me how you teach them according to the plan? You're an inspector. If you are complaining about my method, show me your method. Why don't you work with those kids and try to motivate them and teach them anything? Well, you have to stand up and defend your method, your tools, your beliefs, your truths.
Yeah, and I remember for example, because I also have some practice working with teachers in different formats, etc. For example, different courses, seminars, and so on. And mainly, I would say for all the generation of teachers, quite often were like a request. Please give us something like recipe, like a scenario. Prepare a scenario, and okay, we will follow it. We will try to implement it, etc. Not to be creative itself or by themselves. This is possibly it's different for younger generation of teachers, but
not what I see. I work with teachers for information technology. I'm also the member of the committee that is. They have a state exam. They come into the school, and 1 year they're learning how to become a teacher. They have mentor, and after 1 year they make exam and show us how they do it, and then we tell them, give them the license to be teachers. So I'm in these exams and I work with them, and unfortunately, no, I don't see many creativity. I don't see many things I would like to see. Unfortunately,
I do understand.
Actually, it's not that I would like to see, that I think I need to see in order to give them the license.
Somehow, Predrag, we started to discuss another question. It was my question also, that transformation of education begins with teachers. Obviously, both of us agree with this statement, and also your previous presentation and your previous discussion was in line with the questions, are teachers ready? And it's really not so easy to answer. Are all prepared for transformation? And for example, I remember John Dewey saying that you cannot teach today the same way you did yesterday to prepare students for tomorrow. Because we're preparing teachers, not only teachers, in case of university, we're preparing teachers, we are preparing students at secondary school or primary school for future, being somehow in past century.
I don't believe that you can create a national plan how to change teaching, that you can even provide courses that will teach teachers how to teach differently, and that this will be successful. I think what you need to create as a national education authority, we need to create learning experiences for teachers. Teachers should experience as learners how is it to learn in a different way. And when they experience this, start learning in a different way, then they are able to learn how to teach in this way. Just by teaching him, oh, you should do this, you should do that, this is how you do it, it won't do the trick. We need to create them learning experiences. And another thing that I have noticed is that majority of teachers have lost passion for their subject, for their course, for their profession. So mathematicians have lost passion for mathematics, biologists for biology, historians for history. And we need to recreate that passion and love. We need to show them how funny and interesting and intriguing their profession has become, and how these new tools like Google Maps, Google Earth, virtual laboratories, discussion groups, whatever, how these new things can be used to regain the curiosity, to fulfill your curiosity, to learn about your profession. What is new in biology? What is new in history? What is new in arts? They need to be exposed to these things, and then we need to show them how to learn this in different way and teach in different way.
Predrag, I do agree, but just in line with what you said, some possible already 2 years ago, we performed one study because my one of area of my interest is research methodology, educational research methodology. It's my also favorite field, and we performed one study involving primary school teachers in relation to educational research. Do they use some research or research practice in schools or not, or in their personal teaching practice? And results generally were not good. And for example, today, just so interesting, today I received one manuscript for our journal possible for publication, and we will perform review, obviously. And it's quite interesting. I was surprised. Research-based teaching. And the title sounds like this: Analyzing Science Teachers' Process of Understanding and Using Academic Papers to Teach Scientific Creativity. Very interesting topic, but in the beginning, two excerpts from students are introduced, and I am going to read one of them. For example, one student's expression is, when I was a graduate school student, I read and studied academic research papers. But after completing graduate studies, I have rarely read papers as a science teacher. I think it reflects quite good the situation that teachers are not generally interested in, let's say, latest educational research, in latest results. What do you think? In order to be somehow transformative, to
as I said earlier, they have stopped learning. Teacher who is not learning every day is not a teacher. The holy duty of a teacher is to learn every day. New things, difficult things, boring things. You have to learn, you have to expose yourself to the problems and challenges of learning in order to be a better teacher. Because when you try to learn how to ice skate, or you try to learn how to cook, or you try to learn differential equations or statistics, then you will get new ideas how to teach history better or languages better. You don't have only to be exposed to your profession. And yes, they are not reading about educational research. Yes. And nobody shows them how to implement these results of new educational research, how to implement it in their practice. Yes.
And from year to year, they are just repeating stable practice, and without any innovations and without any new things in their practice. It's quite obvious. And if summarizing this, because we need to move to another part of our discussion, based on your opinion, what obstacles prevents teachers from leading this transformation, or to be in continuous transformation?
At least for Croatia, I think that teachers feel disempowered. They feel that they cannot change anything, that they are not allowed to change anything, that they have to follow. This is the first thing. Then if some teacher says, okay, I'll do it anyway, his immediate surrounding, his colleagues, will not be supportive, or at least, wouldn't care, but they would somehow negatively react. Why are you changing? What are you going to say? Are you better than us? You're going to make mistakes. You're making mistakes. So the climate for change is not positive in the immediate surrounding. I'm not talking about political declarations. So first of all, teachers don't feel they can change something, even in their own teaching. If they try, they don't feel welcome to do that, to talk about it, to show, to discuss. And then third, they don't have support. If they want to do something, they need somebody to test what they've done, or to create them something, or help them do something. They don't have any support. They're left alone. So these are three reasons why they don't change anything.
Support not only from colleagues, but possible support from managers, school managers.
From school management, from government, from everybody else. Yeah.
Okay, let's move to another field shortly, because it's again, it's, as I said, interesting, because you represent the field of electronic systems and information processing, and plus ICT in education in a broad sense, obviously, and at least your interests are directly connected with online distance education, online knowledge assessment. So large field of interest, and how it's possible to cover all of it?
Well, I'm never satisfied with the quantity and quality of things I do. Even my co-workers sometimes complain that I'm doing too many things, that I should focus. And there was recently a period of almost a year or two when I tried to really be more focused. And then I realized that this is not my nature. And that I'm actually forcing myself to be something I'm not. My curiosity, my connecting fields, connecting things and broadening is simply my nature. And I decided I should stay true to my nature. Yes, if you do too many things, then you cannot do as much as you would if you are focusing on one. Maybe the quality is not the best one. But why I do this is also because it fertilizes. Doing one thing gives me ideas for the other one. And then I'm able to come up with some solutions which other people wonder, how did this come to my mind? Well, because I'm like a butterfly flying from one flower to another. Yes, it has its drawbacks, its advantages. This is simply my nature. And of course, I work a lot. I like working. I don't have hobbies. My work is my hobby.
There is something like a contradiction, at least small contradiction, because if you are so multifunctional, you can stay like on surface.
Yeah. Yes.
But not to go in details, not to go more deeply.
Yes, that's true. You stay on the surface. On the other hand, as I said, I like working. I like doing these things. I do this in the day, in the afternoon, in the evening, on weekends. My work is my hobby. I don't have many other hobbies except dance, a little bit. So I put many working hours into what I do. So that gives me ability to go a little bit deeper than the surface, but not. Okay, there are some things that I go deeper into, like some theories and some researches, but yeah, you're right. If you are very broad, you stay on the surface for most things, yes.
But possible for teachers, it's so good approach, or stay.
Well, today they have this also theories and research on employability. So they say I-shaped professional. I-shaped professional is very good and deep into what he is doing. Well, T-shaped professional, besides that, has also some broader abilities. P-shaped has two professions. For instance, teachers should be P-shaped, mathematician and professional for teaching. Biologist and professional for teaching. So they should be very competent in two things, into one profession like languages and a profession called teaching, how to transfer the knowledge efficiently. This is so-called pie-shaped professionals. Well, I have at least two specialties, which one is computer security, the other one is teaching and educational methods and tools. But I also have some other things that I'm good at, designing systems and managing.
Also, as I understood from your CV, you have an experience also at political level, because you worked some period of time as Minister of Education, Possible and Science in the Republic of Croatia.
I was Deputy Minister of Science, yes.
Yeah, sure. And in my case, I also a short period had the same position from 1997, 1998. because I started my career in 1990, just after restoration of independence in Lithuania. It was very, very difficult at the time. And in 1993, I started to work as headmaster in basic school. And after that, I continued in Ministry of Education and Science of the Republic of Lithuania. In this case, both of us somehow we have something in common, let's say political level, at least in education and science. And what do you think, being as good expert in this field, what are the future for ICT in education mainly?
Well, just to comment what you said, I feel a little bit more encouraged and entitled to be vocal about my opinions about education because I teach. I have a course where I'm the only teacher for 700 students, which is mandatory, and students don't like this course because it's communication skills, and they are engineering students. They would like to learn about engineering. They don't like this psychological mumble, as they say. So I have experience with mandatory course, very many students, and students don't want to learn this. Then I have experience with elective courses, technical, professional courses at a 4th and 5th year of higher education. I also teach adults. I teach people in companies about project management, change management, meetings, conflicts. I also teach teachers how to teach. But then I have been in this political position for 7 years as Deputy Minister of Science, and I'm also in a managerial position where I manage smaller or medium-sized companies. So I believe that I see both sides, being the teacher and being the one who is supposed to manage. So when I say that something needs to be done or can be done, I think it has substance. It's not just wishing, mere wishing, wishful thinking. So your question was, what is the future of
ICT in education?
Well, the future of ICT education is very simple, and you don't have to be a prophet to foresee it. The future is that people will learn by themselves from internet. And only privileged people will have a human being as a teacher. Because we have to learn so many things. We have to learn continuously that we will have to learn by ourselves. Now, it's the question, how well will we use the ICT to make this self-learning efficient and pleasant experience? And then what will the teachers actually do? When people ask me, what are you researching about in the education and technology? I say, simplified speaking, I'm seeking ways to replace the teacher with computer in everything that computer can do, so that I finally realize what is it in education that only a human being can do. So what is the true role of teacher? What is the true role of educator? And only few people will have this opportunity and privilege to have such really good teachers. Others will have either poor teachers or not very good teachers, but mostly they will learn by themselves. So ICT in education has come to stay, and it will be broadened. We will have for instance, now is big hype about artificial intelligence. Well, it's very simple. We will try to take an expert in mathematics and train artificial intelligence with everything he or she knows, so that the student can ask advice, can seek help from a machine instead of a human mathematician or biologist or historian or language specialist. So artificial intelligence in education will actually try to accumulate knowledge from experts in order for us to have a machine help us like expert any time of day, any place we are, regardless how tired and busy the human experts are. This is the future of artificial intelligence in education. Artificial intelligence will also be the one who will be examining us, asking us questions, evaluating our responses, and giving us credit for what we know. This is the future of artificial intelligence. The rest you can figure out by yourself: videos, audios, quizzes, learning platforms.
It's like, remember again, because with this recent experience during conference in Maribor, related to cognitive modeling and philosophy of mind, and colleague from Sorbonne University from France, Laurence Debelers, right? She presented somehow this aspect.
Yes. Yeah, sure. And there will be a lot of ethical questions, because whose ethics and morality should artificial teacher employ? There is this world-renowned experiment at MIT called Moral Machine. You can go to the website, Moral Machine at MIT, and you will be presented with a series of images of traffic situations, traffic problems or accidents where a car is involved. And you are supposed to say what the car, the driver or artificial intelligence driving the car should do. Should you kill kids crossing the street when there is a red light for them, or should you kill passengers, or should you, and such hypothetical situations. What this experiment has shown, and hundreds of thousands of people throughout the world have actually done this survey. This research has shown that people from different cultures have different preferences and moral decisions. In one culture, kids are most valuable, so you will do everything to preserve kids. In other culture, senior citizens are considered the most valuable because of their experience and wisdom, and you are trying to save them. In one culture, you are ready to severely punish everybody who is disobeying rules, while in other cultures, you are more relative and lenient, etc. So different cultures would program robot car in different ways. The same is with teaching. So which moral values, whose ethics should be programmed into future artificial teachers? This is a huge question we don't have answer to.
Yeah, it's really complex, and somehow we can predict possible, but it's really not so easy. And in line with this, current practice again during pandemic time and after pandemics, currently possible we can say that we have post-pandemic period. Anyway, for example, in our case, at our university in particular, we continue to work online mainly with master students in some hybrid model with bachelor students, and there are some different also opinions. But for example, in my case, our students usually saying that for them it's quite good approach. They are happy, as I mentioned during our panel discussion, during conference, and latest research we performed as a comparative research with colleagues from Romania, from different universities, involving different universities, and the results approximately are the same. Students more or less are satisfied with online or so-called distance teaching mode, and they do not need to go to university. They are saving money. This is economical aspect, and many other advantages. And possibly your comments. What do you think? Is it okay? Is it not or not? Or...
We have a very important problem here. I don't know if I can invent right now on the top of my head an analogy. Food, feeding habits, nutritional habits. We complain that our kids like eating too much chips, potato chips, or chocolate, or junk food, or fast food.
Coca-Cola.
So when you try to introduce them to healthy food, they say, well, it doesn't taste well.
Yeah.
Well, the same is with teaching. If they don't have experience of exciting, fulfilling, thrilling learning, but rather with learning by heart, boring learning. Then when you offer them alternative, and this was the COVID emergency teaching, they might say, oh, this tastes good. This is good junk food, but it still is a junk food. What I want to say is that we didn't have online teaching, e-learning in a proper way. We had emergency teaching where practices have been amplified. Good practices became better, bad practices became worse. So what they've experienced, well, they pick up what they like. Oh, I don't have to go to school, that's great. Teacher doesn't see me, I can play while I'm supposedly teaching. Yeah. I can use some things to pass the exam. But this is not the real e-learning, online learning that would give them the best knowledge for their effort and the pleasure of learning. And this is also a big question. If they have experience of 8, 10, 12 years, 14 years of basically unpleasurable experience of learning, is it possible to unlearn them and make them receptible for better learning? This is a huge question we need research on. My very modest experience with my freshman students, 650, 700 of them every year, coming directly from secondary schools, is that they are not ready to change their learning habits, even when they say that their learning habits don't satisfy them and were not good. But they're not ready to change them. They're tired. It's too engraved in their everyday behavior. So that's the answer to the question of benefits of COVID.
Yeah. We will see. We will see what what will be in the future, near future. But anyway, for example, as I said, we continue to work online. I have no, let's say, clear answer. But if we would speak about quality of such type of studies, I have a lot of doubts. So it's as you said, I totally agree with this analogy. This is like a junk education.
Yeah.
Junk education, nothing more.
Yeah.
But in the future, for possible artificial teacher or lecturer, as you said, it can be in the same position like a junk educator or not.
Well, if we would create really high quality, objective, computer-based online assessment, so that when you come there, you make exam, it's completely clear whether you do understand something or not and how much you know. And it's comparable on the world level. And it tells you are among 1% of the worst knowledge people have shown on this test. Then you cannot say, oh, the teacher is wrong. You simply don't know. If you would have objective and high quality meters to measure our knowledge, that will be online, available, free, and world standardized. And you say, okay, do I know to program computer? You go to the exam and the answer is 23%. Then you know where you stand. This might encourage some people to learn more. And if there would be really efficient, pleasurable instructional materials, content on the web to learn from, then maybe people would get motivated to learn. So I'm hoping that we will have the wisdom and the stamina in the whole world as teachers and academic and educational community to create such computer-based, online, free, available, standardized, universal, globally educational tools, content, including assessment. And then students, learners will seek us teachers to help them, to guide them, to consult them, to mentor them. being optimist, this is what I hope for.
Okay, Predrag. Possible, you are right. And let's move to our last chapter, I would say, or last part of our discussion, traditional part related to teacher education, because this is possible, really burning issue, because for example, in Lithuania, if I remember well, for many years, let's say for last decade, from time to time, we are discussing about so-called model or new model of teacher training or teacher education. I don't like this term training. It's better to say teacher education, but never mind. New model. What does it mean, new model? And discussions. And quite recently at our university, also it was quite large discussion on so-called new model for teacher education. But in reality, I would say only few changes or small changes are happened, are implemented. Nothing important, or I would say. And quite often we are speaking about so-called, at least on different discussions, different political discussions and documents, including different documents from European Union and also national documents, about so-called new generation of teachers. It sounds a little bit strange. What does it mean, new generation? Including knowledge and competence, subject knowledge, pedagogical content knowledge, and we shortly also mentioned the teacher as a researcher, researcher's competence, ability to perform, to plan, to organize, and generally speaking, to perform different studies related to school practice, to teaching practice, etc., etc. What do you think about this new generation of teachers? How to?
Traditionally, at least in my country, when we talk about education past 10 years, kids, so not the first 4 years, so for the kids 11 years and older, we have this teaching by subject. So you have teachers who teach subjects: math, biology, languages, history, geography. In teaching teachers of subjects like geography, history, math, there has been more emphasis on the subject than on teaching methods and skills. And I think it should be different. It should be the other way around. Teacher has to be a great teacher of anything. And then you specialize them for some course, for some subject. And when you said that you don't like the word training, what I have concluded working with teachers here is that they have learned theoretical things about teaching, but they don't have enough practice. They have not been trained sufficiently. They don't get enough experience in classroom with various children, with various students, with various types of topics they need to teach. They don't practice. They learn theory, but they don't know how to apply it. And this practical part should be emphasized, should be much stronger. We are also in Croatia lacking teachers. You can't find a math teacher. You can't find. There are many other things that we need to do. First of all, embrace and invite everybody who wants to teach, to lower the barriers and then give good training. But we also need to give better reputation to teaching profession, make it more interesting. I heard from you that in your country, there is idea that the teaching profession will become prestigious profession. That's a notable, very important idea. The question is how to do it, how to change it, because the trend of diminishing the prestiginess of teaching profession is 70 years old, maybe even older. How can we do it in a reasonable time? It is not that complicated. if in one country the president of the state, the prime minister welcome athletes when they compete and when they accomplish world-renowned results, but they don't talk about teachers. If we have national medals for this and that, but not for teachers, if teacher profession is not present in national news, in television, in newspapers, well then, what do you expect? So the leaders are the ones who should show who they respect more. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah, you are right. Remember, we shortly discussed during mentioned conference in Slovenia about during panel discussion, and I said that really in Lithuania, some years ago, we started with so-called new national idea to have a teaching profession as a most prestigious profession in Lithuania. Really, it's good as an idea. It's really good, but as you said, how to do this? There is
a simple test you can do. You can ask your Minister of Education to give you the names of 5 best teachers in your country.
I think it would be difficult. So difficult question.
Then you go to Prime Minister and the President and ask them the same question. If they know, then you have very good news. If they don't, then the story about prestige profession is just the story on a paper.
Thanks, Predrag. I obviously keep this in mind, this question, and possible will find a solution how to ask such a question. It's a good indicator. It would be a good indicator, really.
Or in the parliament. Go into the parliament and ask members of the parliament to tell you who the names of the good teachers in the country.
But again, it can be contradictory question. What does it mean, good teacher? What is the meaning for good teacher?
Yes, I fully agree with you, but it would be great if they could give you 5 names without criteria. Just tell me 5 names of teachers that you believe are good teachers. Yep. Yeah.
Okay. And you already mentioned shortly, but again, possible in more details. How would you rate the prestige of teaching profession in your country, in Croatia?
It's a difficult question. Unless it's mentioned in the media, unless the country leaders talk about educators by name, if it's not present in the national, every evening or every week in evening television news, there should be programs like Report Your Teacher, asking children to say which teacher they think is the best teacher and why, what this teacher does and doesn't, without awards, without simply making this profession visible. Although I have to say something, apart from entertainment industry and professional sports people, I don't think that any profession is prestige today. If you go into 19th century, in almost every European, at least middle European city, you will find a place of the town where houses have been built, at that time very nice houses in a prestige place, for railroad engineers. Because railroad engineer was a really prestigious profession. If you go to cemeteries from that time, you will see that on their plaques, there will be name and the profession. And many times you will see the profession railroad engineer, or lawyer, or teacher, or doctor. The professions were prestigious and people will be proud of their professions. Today, even if you're astronaut, does anybody know for you? And if your neighbors ask you, what do you do? And you say, well, I'm astronaut, I'm flying to the space stations. Would they say, wow, really? Very few. So apart from being sportsman or entertainer, which profession is prestigious? Doctors, maybe. Lawyers, no longer. Engineers, no longer. So it's maybe a broader question, how to raise interest for professional life and professional identity in general.
Yeah, it's because, for example, also in Lithuania, I am not sure about your country, but possible we can find different discussions which reflects, for example, a position like society position, that society in general do not value teachers. Do not value teachers. Parents guide their children towards other professions which they find more prestigious, so-called more prestigious. For example, if somebody wants to say, okay, possible I'm going to become a teacher, or I have an intention to study this profession or the study program. No, it's not correct. It's like in last position, not prestigious.
In every country, in every television news, in prime time, you have a sports section where they report about professional sport, about rich people who become invalids very young, doing things which are stupid. Chasing the ball, there is nothing worth in it. So if we don't have a section on education, we cannot talk about any changes and any prestigeness. Right?
Possible, yes. Possible, you are right. Really, because, and you mentioned about teacher need or teacher shortage in Croatia. In Lithuania also somehow we feel this problem. Some mainly, for example, currently today we need more science teachers, not enough science teachers, including math teachers. And what possible more details about Croatia, about your country? Because you said that it's...
Yeah, the same problem. You cannot find IT teacher, math teacher. Yep.
And how to solve this problem? Do you have any suggestions?
Lowering the barriers who can teach. Look, I was very unpopular when I said that every high school graduate who likes math, was good at math, can teach math and doesn't have to study mathematics. The question is, does he or she know how to teach? We need to train them to teach, but they don't need to learn more math. Do they?
I have no clear answer.
In my head, it's quite clear. Somebody who was good at math in high school can learn. If there are some things that they need to learn in math, it can be trained in service learning. So we need to lower barrier who can teach. But also we have to make this profession more attractive with the money, salaries. You know, this is the question. Who in politics has the courage to say, well, we don't have mathematics teachers, so we will pay them 2 times as much as English language teachers, or
3 or 4 times.
Yeah, or history teachers. Who has this courage? to create.
Predrag, for example, possible I mentioned this year and previous year in Lithuania, math exams results were so bad, relatively bad, and for very short period of time was discussion. Okay, it's not good. We need to do something. We need to change the situation, and I would say nothing serious. No any clear suggestions how to improve, how to change the situation.
Yeah, exactly. Mathematics is possibly the easiest, the lakmus paper, the easiest method to test how efficient our educational system is. I have this famous question that I ask all teachers in all my lectures. I say, my shirt, price for my shirt was 330 of something. And now it's discounted. It is cheaper 33%. How much does it cost? And basically nobody knows, apart from math teachers, IT teachers, physicist teachers. They don't know that 33% is 1/3. And they cannot calculate by heart in their minds, in their heads, what is 1/3 of 330. If they didn't learn this in 12 years of education, what did they learn? And they've been learning math for 12 years. So something is deeply, profoundly wrong.
It's Predrag, it's somehow the same. Again, I can say based on my own experience. For example, as I said, because I started in 1974, my primary school and later on secondary school, and from fifth grade, being already in secondary level, we started to learn foreign language. It was French language, and after secondary school, all of us, all general class, all students, we were not able to speak in French.
Exactly.
Yeah. What we have learned.
What is the purpose?
Yeah. We spent more than 5, 6, 7 years, and we are not able to speak.
Exactly.
And some financial resources were invested, human resources were invested, time investment, etc. And the result. And after that, I just want to continue. After that, I needed to move to English language, and I started somehow to learn by myself.
Yeah. Vincentas, I studied biology and chemistry 6 years. When I see in the bathroom something black, or even worse, something red, I don't know, is it biology or chemistry? You see? There is something, I don't know, is it living being or just chemical compound? After 6 years of learning, what did I learn? Nothing.
Do you think?
How much did we learn in our schools about our bodies? To live healthy, not to kill our body. How much did we learn? Nothing.
And mainly from public opinion in general during, for example, COVID and during vaccination process. A lot of people, so-called anti-vaxxers, a lot of different opinions, absolutely unscientific opinions.
Yes.
Despite that, I would say majority of them at least finished secondary school level. It's quite interesting. And next, a little bit possible provocative question, because we are approaching to the end. Smart or competent teacher?
What?
Smart or competent teacher?
Smart or competent? I don't know what is smart or teacher.
Me too. But this is typical American term, and we use it a lot. and like an equal term to competent teacher, smart person. He or she is smart student, for example.
I can't answer to that question. Competence means that you have knowledge, you have skills, you have attitudes, you have motivation. This means being competent. Do they want to say that you may be competent but not very resourceful, intelligent? If you're smart, you're resourceful, intelligent, but not necessarily have knowledge and skills. If this is on a scale, once I wrote to myself, I have a little notice book where I put my thoughts, and I said, surface knowledge. The way you asked me, perhaps I'm too broad, so I'm always on the surface. Well, surface knowledge is dangerous because you think that you know, but you actually don't.
It creates like impression that you know a lot.
Impression that you know a lot, but you don't. And it also encourages you to make mistakes you shouldn't make. And it also gives you more confidence than you actually deserve. I think well, of course I can make a joke and say you need smart, competent teacher.
No, it's because I remember it was quite hot, I would say, quite a hot discussion during one conference some years ago. After one keynote speaker, after presentation, and she was presenter was from United States, and she used this term quite frequently, just smart teacher. And I remember a so burning discussion after presentation with colleagues from UK, and we started to argue, what does it mean smart? Is it the same as competent or not? And it was, I remember, quite deep discussion. Anyway, this is somehow interesting. And do you agree that teachers today are as knowledge producers, reflective practitioners, and policy partners?
No. First of all, one thing that should be happening in the future is, we should step away from this idea of a universal teacher. Universal in the sense that they expect you to be capable of making textbooks, creating exams, creating lab experiences, talking, examining, guiding, mentoring, counseling. It's too much for one person. Most people will specialize. Somebody will be good at making textbooks, other one at exams, third one at talking, fourth one at mentoring. So first, what we need is subspecializations of teachers. This is first thing. Then we need continuous exchange of good practices. We need to be exposed to what our colleagues do, to be able to quickly explain what we and how do and what was successful or not. So these two things would probably improve the quality of what teachers do.
Okay.
You can't, with exchanging of good practices and bad practices. Oh, listen, people, I tried this and it didn't work because of this and that. Or it didn't work, I don't know why. Because it is not efficient that you make every mistake by yourself and that you try everything by yourself. Learning from others' experience is extremely important. For a smart teacher, it can shorten the time.
Yeah. And my pre-last question. I remember I said again during panel discussion in Maribor. Usually I am starting my lectures with students raising the same question. What education for what life? Do you have an answer?
I do.
Please
When
share.
we talk about primary education, regardless how long it should be, the primary or fundamental basic education should teach children how to live healthy, how to eat healthy, how to take care about their health, their body, their mind, their soul. This is the first thing. Second, how to live safe in the streets, on the internet, at home. Then we should teach them how to earn money and save money, even when they are kids. They should understand where the money comes from, not from the ATM machine or from the wallet of their parents. Then we should teach them how to communicate and collaborate with other people, how to work with other humans and do something good, not how to compete, but how to collaborate. And of course, art, how to express themselves through creation, innovation, and art. This is the basic education we need to give them. Then the layer above it, the secondary education, could be similar to what we do today. Oh, let's see in this world, well, you have learned this and that about fire, but let's look at the fire from the perspective of chemistry, physics, poetry, math, whatever. So let's learn about this miraculous thing called physics, and then biology, and then philosophy. Maybe this is the time to learn abstract things once you are good at practical things. And then again, when you are going into more professional things, either on the level of secondary or tertiary education, again, I would go first for practical. To be able to make a table or a computer program or plant a tree. And then let's go to see more abstract and theoretical things. Why is it so? And then learn to be a researcher, and then learn to be a scientist if you pursue this career. Definitely things have to go from practical to more abstract, more theoretical in every aspect. And as somebody said, learning should be relevant and relatable. I have to understand what it has to do with me, and I have to be able to do something with that knowledge all the time.
I really agree. I really agree with that. And it's a pity that our discussion is really quite interesting, but time is is limited as usual. And okay, Predrag, my last question. Are you ready for transformation of education or in education?
I am. I'm transforming myself all the time. I'm transforming myself from engineer to teacher. In teaching, I'm transforming myself from preacher and lecturer into guide, consultant, mentor, creator of educational content and materials and processes and tools. And I will continue to do that till my last breath.
Because this question is based on your presentation title.
Yes.
This is not secret, I want to say. And summarizing our discussion, at least my opinion, that transformation somehow was like a red line for our in this our discussion. Transformation in general, transformative education, and possible our viewers and our colleagues would agree with this idea. Thank you very much for our discussion, Predrag. It was really nice. And possibly you also want to say some golden words to
Thank you,
our
Vincentas,
viewers.
for this interview. Thank you, Vincentas, for this opportunity. Well, in my presentation in Maribor was something that is I find increasingly important, and this is courage. This is the courage to do things that we don't know how to do, that nobody can tell us if they will work, things that we might be guilty for, create inequality or bad results, things that other people will oppose or laugh at or be angry about. Teachers need to be courageous, but also the educational authorities and the educational system needs to help them to be courageous, to stay behind them, to defend them when others attack them, to invite them to do something that nobody did before, because without this you don't have innovation. There is a great talk by a lady, I think her name is Christina or Marina Dugan. She was director of DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency in the United States. There is TED Talk. And Ms. Dugan says that the most important thing about that agency is that they were courageous. They were enabling their employees to be courageous, to make mistakes. Sony, famous Japanese company, at one period of their time, they had a slogan, "We won't be the ones to make the mistake first, before the others. Because from mistakes we learn." So educational system and authorities and the national climate should be the one encouraging teachers to experiment, to seek new ways of teaching. That would be my message. And thank you for this talk.
Thank you, Predrag, again, and really so valuable, so nice final words, final message, and I wish you big success in your future personal life and academic life, also for your colleagues and personally for you. And I hope that we will meet again, possible not online, possible somewhere else in conference, symposia or so. And we will continue our good and fruitful discussion on this, let's say, problems which are problems forever, or questions forever. Thank you very much, brother. Keep well and
Thank
safe.
you, Vincentas.